All right, it's 8:30. Good morning to everyone. I'll go ahead and call today's meeting of the Clay County Board of Commissioners to order. The first item on the agenda this morning is an approval of the agenda.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
We have a motion offered from Commissioner Bear to approve the agenda,
Second.
and a second offered from Commissioner Ebbinger. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion's carried. Citizens to be heard. Is there any citizen in the audience today wishing to address the board on any item that is not on the agenda? Any citizens to be heard? Steve, have we had any online correspondence?
We have not, Madam Chair.
Thank you. The next item today is the approval of the payment of bills and vouchers.
Move to approve.
We have a motion offered from Commissioner Krabanoff to approve the payment of bills and vouchers.
Second.
A second offered from Commissioner Bear. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. The minutes from the January 13th, 2026 meeting were in the packet. There is a amendment to what is in the packet. It's just the resolution included 23 or 26-5 from our county engineer. Sarah does have it. It just, that specific resolution was omitted.
I'll move to approve with the minute, with the amendment.
Okay, we have a motion offered from Commissioner Krabanoff to approve the minutes with
Second.
the amendment, a second offered from Commissioner Bear. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The item's carried. Item 2 this morning is our legislative update from Representative Heather Keeler. Good morning, Representative.
Good morning. Good to see you. How are you guys?
Good.
Good. Do you want me to just start?
Jump on in.
Okay, well, I just want to say thank you for all the work that we've been able to do together when we came out of session last year, especially in the human services lane. We had a large deficit in the budget, and we were still able to get the $1 million dedicated to the PRTF, and that's us. We did that work. You know, we really spent a lot of time educating not only our community, but a lot of my other legislative colleagues down in Minneapolis about what we're doing out here, so much so that they're talking about what we are building as a statewide mechanism to support our kids. And so I don't know if you guys really see that. I just want to share that the work we've done here has really shared a lot of inspiration and hope across the entire state. And it's putting like a really amazing spotlight on how we can work not only within the commission, but also with the surrounding counties to really bring them in. Because I think you guys are up to 38 counties now, and you guys, is it 38? 28, almost 30. And then the 11 tribal nations, and then MIAC. And that's a lot of work. And so thank you for you guys who have come down and made those relationships, because I think partnership is how we really make this a reality. So that phase is done. Yay. Now we're on to the next phase, which it feels like we keep saying it's building a house with a deck of cards. We just have to make sure everything lines up appropriately. And so I've been doing a lot of educating, because it's sort of a new lane. The non-secure juvenile detention center sits more in the Department of Corrections than it does necessarily in Human Services, which is where we did a lot of the education last time. Talked to Commissioner Schnell, have talked to a lot of people about it, but now it's time for us to really lean in to that space, because it was the agencies that advocated along with us to get that funding. And so any connections you guys have or any networks you have to continue to work in our public safety lane, our education lane, because a lot of the partnership with our kids, and then Department of Corrections. I'll continue to do that, but I would say that's the top sort of areas that we all need to reach out and build those relationships. The bill is still in. As you guys know, we're in the same term. And so the bill that we put in for our bonding ask last year is still alive this year. We go back into session February 18th. It's a quick session because it's a policy-only year and bonding. I just really encourage you guys to continue to talk to the other legislators in this area, because bonding is such a weird vote. We have to have the super majority to be able to do it, and so it's really making sure everybody understands the importance of this. What I worry about is that the conversation that we're having around bonding is, some of us believe bonding has got a little bit out of the original intent, like baseball fields and sort of some of these like one-off more entertainment individual or entities, where some of us would really like to get it back into like the infrastructure and things that are actually building and supporting large area needs. You know, we have still a lot of roads and waterways and things like that that we need to invest in. And so I know there's an appetite to move. So we got to be really careful that this isn't identified as just an individual interest. This really is a statewide initiative, border to border, but also just this entire region. One of the things people have been asking me is, where are we with North Dakota support for this? That's sort of been a new question. I don't know if we've really done a lot of work, because it is, you know, we are pitching this as a regional location.
Rep. Keeler, in reference to that question, are you talking financial North Dakota support?
Usership.
Usership. Well, two of our commissioners here do serve on the West Central Board, and North Dakota is an active partner. We do have agreements with Cass County. Cass County was really helpful in the expansion. They could talk further about that in the secure facility, but we do have existing relationships in regards to those kiddos.
Okay.
And I would say that there really hasn't been too much discussion about the PRTF, and, you know, and even, I think with the strong demand statewide in Minnesota, I think our focus first needs to be on all 87 counties in Minnesota and having the appropriate beds to cover those. As Commissioner Mongeau said, we do have a partner with Cass County in our secure juvenile detention portion of it. But there has been no discussions with North Dakota regarding financing or participation in use of the facility, because quite frankly, we don't think there would be enough room for them.
Okay. I think that's just the questions that people are asking. I know that, I think it kind of stemmed from, you know, just the partnerships that we have with Solutions and providing services for the PRTF. We just need to know, right? So just letting us know where we are with that. It's just a new question that's been coming up when we're talking about the non-secure. So whatever we need to have ready for us to know that. I agree with you. I think that we need to do this for Minnesota. And were you going to say something?
Well, I guess when it comes to the non-secure facility, right now we still do not have any membership with North Dakota there either. I think on a rare instance, we may have a child from North Dakota in there if there's space available. But typically in our non-secure, we're non-secure. The non-secure facility right now is strictly a Clay County financed facility.
There's been, the other Minnesota partners have expressed an interest
Yes.
in wanting access to that, and certainly an interest in the psychiatric facility proposed. I think we've been reluctant to even approach it with North Dakota partners. State of North Dakota transitions over and pays for some of the Cass County kids when the custody changes to the state. So we have a dual relationship over in North Dakota, but I think we've been reluctant to include them in this simply because of the demands that Minnesota has for these facilities.
That's great. The other region is the southern region of the counties here. You know, we've done a lot up north and we're doing really great, and even sort of down, the metro area, 7 County, there's a lot of support growing there. Just wondering if we can do a little bit of outreach down in the southern part of this side of the state, just because I think too, when we go back and we are saying we want to do this for our side of the state, it would be really great if our county spread could kind of go down just a little bit more, just kind of sharing some ideas on how we can build some more support, to try to get this across the finish line. The one thing that we also were looking into was there was some funding that went out last year for the Miller building. It was an example that we were trying to use on how we could get the funding across the finish line. The difference is is the way that the Miller Building was set up, is that they did part infrastructure and part staffing. I believe part of your match for the bond request is staffing.
That's correct, Representative.
So we need to look at that a little bit different, I think, than what we had originally approached, because 100% of your ask is all brick and mortar. Is that right?
Correct. When we, I think, I don't want to say went back to the drawing board, but after we heard the feedback from the legislative session throughout the off-season, we've really worked at how we reframe that ask. We did include the staffing component as part of the bonding tour and that presentation in regards to what the staffing outlook would look like for that match. So you're 100% correct in that. Because of, I think what they did with the Miller Building, what you did with the Miller Building was a different way of looking at that. It was finding a way to relook at how we handle these larger asks to get it across the finish line. So that's part of the dialogue that we've internally been having.
I think too, last I'll say, just because of the dollar amount, you know, we've been saying that if we can find other partnerships, you know, I know we've tried, I feel like for over a year, we've been really trying to get creative with groups like the chamber, you know, and how can we maybe look at other support mechanisms to come in and help fund this if the state can't fund the entire project. You know what I mean? I think we have to be in a realistic mind frame about what that looks like. But this is my top priority. It's been my top priority. I told you guys I was gonna go work hard on this, and I did, and we were successful. I voted yes on it the entire way. I was an advocate for it the entire way. I worked really hard also with the Senate. I think we just have to, the House is very up to date on what we're doing. The House and the Senate are two different chambers, and so we're gonna have to spend a lot of time getting them up to date too, because at the end of the day, what we don't wanna happen is the House really be excited about moving this forward, and then also have, I know we've done a good job in the governor's office, but we really also need to lean into our senators to help, again, this entire side of the state. And so that's the plan. It's a quick session. You know, we, as you guys know, when we do bonding, you get like a 2 days notice, and you get there and it's like a rapid fire of like a 5-minute presentation. So the more that you guys can try to come down early with us and do relationship building, like I said, we've moved now to this new lane of legislators. The people who sat on Human Services and Health who heard about the PRTF are typically not going to be the same legislators who sit now over in Public Safety, Department of Corrections, and Education. So let me help you, you know, help us build the bridges on who we need to talk to. Again, this is a very bipartisan effort, as it should be for our kids, and just making sure that we all get on the same page of what we're doing, and saying that now we've completed the PRTF phase on the legislative side. We understand there's still the work to do here, but we are now full-blown into the non-secure juvenile detention center phase of this and working hard to get that funding. It's not only my top priority in the bonding bill, it's my top priority going into this session. So maybe emailing for just quick updates. The minute you get more counties on board, please let us know, or other organizations, groups. One person asked where we could get the Minnesota Youth Council is a council that is in the state that's obviously a part of, you know, youth leading what they want in the community. So there's also been a suggestion that maybe you guys reach out to them to get their feedback and support, just thinking of ways on how we can build the support mechanism to try to make this a priority. Do you guys have any other questions?
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Commissioner.
So when we have this request in, right now, you helped us secure the money to redo the current facility to meet the PRTF requirements for them to move in. The other portion that we're still working on, the bonding, what is that dollar amount? Is that? Is it 20?
23.
And like you said, the likelihood of getting, are there some stipulations in bonding that there has to be a certain local match?
Yes.
There,
And that's the one thing that that's why the bonding tours are so great, because both the House and the Senate have come out, and then we get feedback. And so your team has worked actually really well at putting together the match based on services provided. So originally we were under the assumption that when they were saying we needed a match, it had to be brick and mortar match to match. That's actually not the case. We've been able to provide the match through the services that we're going to be providing. And so what you guys have put together and what we've shared with the most recent bonding tours seems to be sufficient as the local match.
Instead of how other projects we've seen a 50% cash match because of the services and the additional supports going into that, that has been satisfied as what the match would be.
Thank you.
Additional questions? Well, one, as someone who's had the opportunity to meet with you, and I think it's important that the board knows this, we've been meeting with Representative Keeler almost weekly for almost 2 years in how we communicate, how we advocate, how we lift this need for all of the region, particularly Clay County and the kiddos in which we serve. So huge gratitude for the offering of your time. That's not something that other representatives offer. And I think it's important that the community knows how much we've been in the trenches on this. Painful discussions on what is the reality for some of these children, what is the reality for the families that are in this turmoil of not finding placement for their children. It's incredibly painful, and we can and we will do better. So thank you for that opportunity. Thank you for keeping us in the loop when you hear snippets of information at the Capitol for us to circle back with, or if it's imperative for us to hit the road and get there, we will be there in person. We have been there in person even when it's challenging. So thank you for that. I know you've, with your colleagues, Representative Joy and Senator Kupek, also authored other bills to lift the region. So thank you for continuing to do that. But from this board, we've not had the opportunity to meet with you since the tragedy of your colleague last summer. And I just want you to know, and your other colleagues, that there are not words to articulate how sorry we are for what that loss was for you and your colleagues. And we will continue to honor the memory of those colleagues. I've talked a lot. Senator Hoffman has been in our West Central facility. Senator Hoffman was a huge advocate for that. And when he was there, said, wow, this makes sense. I wish this could make sense in such a way in other communities. So thank you for what you're doing. So I know you weren't expecting that, but I just want you to know that we see what that was for all of you, and we will continue to hold all of you close as we do the work moving forward. So,
Yeah, I too want to express gratitude for our relationship and all we've been doing over the last couple of years. I think your guidance legislatively has taken us to places that would have been very, very difficult, and you led that. And the other part I was extremely happy about, how you right from the very beginning made this bipartisan. And we immediately, that's helped us in both the House and the Senate. And you lead that way, and that makes this something for everybody without a lot of controversy. And I appreciate that guidance. Look forward to our weekly meetings and being down at the Capitol. So, thank you.
all right. Any final
Did
closing
she have anything else besides the
closing comments?
Thank you. I wasn't expecting that. The only other thing that I think we could talk about, and I feel like we keep opening up, I call it the gravel tax. Remember, we've talked a lot about the usage on the back roads, and we've been trying to get really creative of how when people come over to utilize our gravel pits rather than going to the other side, it ruins our roads. And we've tried to be, I keep trying to be really creative, and we keep running into the Commerce Clause. And so I would genuinely like to try to reopen that, to explore that a little bit, because it's only getting worse. And I think if we could kind of explore so we can't charge North Dakota a North Dakota tax to come utilize it. There can be a geographic spread option. And so that would be the only other thing that I would say has been on our radar that we've been working on, that I keep kind of coming up to like a hard no, and I don't know how to get around it. And so we could explore that a little bit more, because my guess is you haven't got a big chunk of money to fix your roads based on what's happened with the overusage that we have had. And so that's an area that we could continue to explore. Again, when new people are in new seats, it's a different conversation. And I think there maybe is a conversation that we can have there. So however, we can follow up and meet with that. And then anything public health wise that you guys have going on. I just feel like in general right now with the mental health crisis that we're seeing and things that we're seeing across the board, if there's any help you guys need from a county perspective or a regional perspective, I sit at the health committee. I'm the co-vice chair in human services. And I'm an education policy, so if there's ever anything you guys need from that lane, Quinn and you guys are always really great at letting me know. But just happy to be a voice. And last, continue to show up sort of for all of the things. If you guys aren't following the committees, often we have county commissioners come from closer to the metro when things are on the docket. And it would be really nice if not only in person, but we have a virtual testimony option. So if you sign up for bills and you see things that would be harmful to our county, it's easier for you guys to get into it with us when the bill is on the table. So we can hear opposition or what unintended consequences would be for our county and our side of the state. It's easier to do that when we're at the table at the committee first than when the bill starts to roll down and there's more momentum and then we realize there's this large cost that's landing on the counties. It's hard to reverse that once we build the snowball effect. So just want to make sure if you guys need, I need your help speaking up for this side of the state. And so if you guys can just help keep eyes on some of those committees and join virtually, even if needed, just to testify. So our side of the state is really being heard on what those financial impacts are, because we know you guys are just really stressed with a lot of the costs.
Going back to the gravel tax component, one piece, and I know we've had issues with the commerce clauses, which is fine. Even if there's some sort of communication to a local entity about a road system that will be overstressed from a project. That was, for us, we have our 5-year plan and we do have other projects in the coffer, but a 5-year plan on road replacements, and if a large enormous facility goes in on a bordering state that would utilize that roadway, that's something that if there was a way that we could allow some sort of communication with a local entity, we would have possibly pushed back a road project or looked at some sort of different piece, because it does affect the construction detours and all of those large pieces. Maybe it's a segue to utilization, but certainly how we deal with those projects would be really helpful with us. Not only us, but additional pieces. But anything else? All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your work. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
Yep. Item 3 is a request approval to fill a clinic nurse position due to an upcoming retirement. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I have Liz with me today. We have a long-standing nurse who wears many, many hats in public health, who has given us her intent, or her letter of intent for retirement. So we congratulate her, although we will sorely miss her and all of that system knowledge that will be leaving with her. So our intent for this request is to refill the position, but we do want to make a slight modification to the position. So it'll still be clinic nurse along with school nursing and then the disease prevention and control. But we want to restructure the position to also add family home visiting to that umbrella to fall under this position. And that'll kind of segue into our next agenda item. But primarily the goal is to eliminate the need for backup coverage in the clinic right now. So we have one primary nurse who, is scheduled in the clinic Monday through Friday. If her schedule, for whatever reason, pulls her out of the clinic, we have a backup rotation. And right now that is covered between Liz's unit and our adult health unit. And it really ties up a lot of those staff's time when they have to schedule to provide that backup and whether or not it's going to be necessary. So our intent with this would be to tie in a family home visiting nurse and the clinic nurse position in order to eliminate that need for backup coverage. So the motion before you is a request to approve the position with backfill in case there's internal interest.
Questions from the board?
I have one. I assume this went to pick.
Commissioner Barry, this did go to pick. Commissioner Krabanoff.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I think, and how you looked at spreading this into another area without having to, once again, take that, making roles bigger and more nimble, I guess is the way I look at it. So, yeah, she will greatly be missed. Yeah. And I did meet Kevin the other day in an adult mental health meeting, and everything seems to be working well and getting off on the Rule 79 work, and I think you're in a good direction.
Board?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to fill the clinic family home visiting nurse position with backfill if.
Second.
A motion offered from Commissioner Bear, a second from Commissioner Ebinger. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Kevin's just excited that Cheryl can't give him a shot anymore. Any further?
I'm sure somebody else will be more than willing.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. Thank you. Next item would be a request approval to fill the restructuring of the public health clinic hours.
Yes, all right, thank you again. So we are here to request approval to reduce the number of days that the clinic is open to the public. So currently it is open Monday through Friday from 8 to 4:30. However, the clinic usage has not rebounded since the pandemic. So our proposal is to reduce the number of days that the clinic is open to 2 days a week. Our intent would be to have it open on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8 to 4:30. I have listed before you the utilization averages for 2025. Liz and myself and our current clinic nurse have looked over the numbers very intently and feel that being open 2 days a week would more than accommodate the current need. However, we realize that this could ebb and flow. So this isn't a stamped thing that would go on forever. We would continuously monitor. If utilization starts to increase, we would be more than willing to adjust the clinic hours. But again, just trying to be mindful of county levy dollars. It's very expensive to staff a nurse full-time. And we feel that we could better utilize that nursing time to co-align it with the family home visiting program. So again, we would pull a current family home visiting nurse, the clinic nurse, and have the two of them provide the clinic coverage, be each other's backup, and then when they're not providing clinic duties, work in the family home visiting program. Do you have anything to add to that, Liz?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
And just to clarify, Jessica, we're not looking at cutting the WIC hour clinics. We're just looking at the nursing portion.
That is absolutely correct. So the clinic technically will still be open Monday through Friday for the WIC portion of the clinic. So WIC will still be operating 5 days a week. It's normal hours with their evening on Tuesday. I think they're open until 7 on Tuesdays.
We did discuss this at PIC. Questions from the board?
I have one question, Madam
Yes,
Chair.
Commissioner Bear.
So if I was, is the clinic, is it a walk-in or do you make appointments or how does that?
So it is by appointment, but at times we do have requests for drug UAs that might be more immediate need.
Okay,
And we accommodate for those that when they come in. So, and if that were to be the case and someone absolutely needed a drug UA on a Friday, we would make sure that that would happen.
And I have spoken to Quinn about our intent to bring this before the board, and he felt that, I mean, it's primarily social services that request the drug UAs. He felt that their staff would be able to work with us. You know, I mean, I think it's averaging one a month is what we're doing, so.
I sent some information to Jessica yesterday in regards to a clinic that is being offered at one of our school districts. I think since the pandemic, there's been alternate opportunities rather for families to get kids in to be seen. I know there's dollar clinics that exist in the community, so I think families are just trying to figure out the best way to utilize services like that. I think before, Walgreens did not offer walk-in flu shots either in the capacity, not just Walgreens, but just different.
All of the pharmacies target, you know, I think people are accessing services where they're at instead of going maybe out of their way. And I think just the availability of vaccinations and whatnot throughout the community is just increasing. And so we're seeing the decline with what our typical services have been.
And I do appreciate the opportunity to look within and see which is the best utilization of services and hours and staffed hours and those components. So certainly we can address the community needs if we're seeing upticks or additional needs otherwise, but for now, this seems to be the best option moving forward. Commissioner Ebinger?
And Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to reduce the Clay County Public Health Clinic hours to 2 days per week effective March 2nd, 2026.
I'll second that.
A motion offered from Commissioner Ebinger, a second offered from Commissioner Bear. Any further discussion?
I think it makes sense, Madam Chair, with doing that, because if they have to call to make an appointment anyways, then we can schedule all the appointments in 2 days instead of stretching it out for 5, so it makes sense.
Any further discussion?
Can I just one
Commissioner
quick?
Campbell?
So if somebody were to call and, you know, based on their schedules, those 2 days cannot work for what they need to have, is there a way to still try to accommodate them?
So the nurses that will be in this position will be available 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday. So there will be some flexibility. It'll just be the main amount of appointments would be scheduled on the Tuesdays and Thursdays. Sure. But we will have flexibility with that if needed.
Good. I mean, those 2 days that you would be open, there might be some people who just have conflicts that can't make those days. And in that rare instance, then certainly you could
Yeah.
help them out.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. Thank you. The next item, 5. Request approval to fill the open sanitarian position. Kent's coming up to join you.
Yes, all right, I have Kent with me. So we are requesting approval to fill the sanitary position within environmental health. So this position is essential to meeting our delegated responsibilities under our delegation agreement with the Minnesota Department of Health. The position has not been filled since August of 25 due to a resignation. The sanitarian position provides a wide range of MDH delegated functions, including licensing inspections of restaurants, bars, daycares, hotels, etc. They also assist with responding to nuisance and complaint concerns throughout the county. They also play a critical role in permitting and inspecting septic systems. Excuse me. They also participate in demolition inspections and permitting. And then just given the scope of the delegated authority, regulatory requirements are increasing inspection activity and the need to maintain compliance under our MDH delegation agreement, we're requesting the backfill of this position as we feel it's necessary to ensure continuity, regulatory compliance, and public health protection. As you are all aware, we recently went from a 4-county CBH down to a 2-county. With that, Otter Tail and Wilkin counties have left the Partnership for Health Community Health Board. And I know there was some questions regarding the sanitarian position with the licensing piece of that. However, Otter Tail County had previously done their own inspections. We were doing Wilkin counties, but they only had 22 sites. So we really do not feel that the loss of Otter Tail and Wilkin, as it relates to environmental health specifically, was a significant reduction in overall workload. And so we are coming before the board to request that this position be filled. We do have a variable hour environmental health technician who's recently completed the requirements to become a sanitarian. Our intent, if the board approves today, would be to move that position from variable hour and have her start in the sanitarian role full-time effective February 1st.
Kent, do you have anything to add before we have questions?
No, I don't believe so, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Any questions from the board?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Campbell.
Kent, I know in this, the demolition inspections and permitting, there was a lot of demands over the last few years. I think at the high school, that was a huge demolition project. The 11th Street underpass project, there was an awful lot of demolitions related to that. What do you anticipate coming up? Have you heard of any other, and of course, then we had the Ward Center Mall area, was all significant. Hopefully, most of the demolition projects are done now and we start building. But it, from as I can see where that was really an awful lot put on the plates during that time period. Do you anticipate that kind of workload continuing?
Yes, thank you for the question. I cannot foresee the level that we've been at for demolition inspections to continue. Like the sites that you've mentioned, it has been quite a stretch here. I would say, though, in addition to that we do have more time that is happening with inspections and return inspections as far as the asbestos analysis, collecting samples, sending it off, and communicating back and confirming abatement in structures before they are enter into final demolition. So, aside from the specific projects that you mentioned, which were huge and have been very large time amounts spent with those, there is a general trend towards more time in the demolition inspections as well, just behind the scenes as well. So,
You're not involved when it comes to new buildings, right? I mean, it's brought up here about permitting, but most of all of that stuff is done through building inspectors and that type of stuff, right?
yes, yep, for new building projects, it's building codes in the city of Moorhead, and then, of course, planning and zoning here out in the rural county. I am involved with plan review for those if there is going to be a licensed entity in there, if there's going to be licensed services, that kind of thing. Then we do have plan review for food service, lodging, things like that.
Yeah. And this was also brought to PIC, and the recommendation through PIC was to support the recommendation or the request.
Commissioner Ebinger?
Yeah, Madam Chair, just to point out, this has been discussed with the restructuring of the Partnership for Health, and the workload is going to be well served now that we have this variable hour person that's able to fill the FTE position. Having said that, I'd like to make a motion to fill the sanitarian position.
Second.
A motion offered from Commissioner Ebinger, a second from Commissioner Krabanoff to fill the open position. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Thank you for your flexibility in the interim while we tried to figure out what made the most sense, so I appreciate the patience on that part. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 6 this morning is a request approval of the recommendation for the MPCA funding. We have Patrick Hollister with us today. Good morning, Patrick.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Just for a quick review for the audience, back on June 3rd, 2025, the Partnership for Health, CHB, received a check for $129,540 from the MPCA, which was the portion allocated to us from the settlement with Anheuser-Busch over the Budweiser plant. Under a relatively new state statute, I believe it's only 2 or 3 years old, we have exactly 1 year from the date that we received that check to do 4 things. One is to conduct a public input process to figure out how to use the money, decide how to use the money, and then submit a report to the state legislature on how we used the money. So we have until June 3rd, 2026 to do all of the above. We've had a committee going consisting of 12 members, 6 of whom are in the room right now, to sort of facilitate the public input process and come to a recommendation for you as to how to use the money. So in your agenda packet is about 12 pages showing our recommendations, and I want to acknowledge Christy Lashevsky and Forrest Steinhoff in the room this morning from the city of Moorhead. They're the ones who actually prepared these materials. And even though these pages are labeled options, such as option 1, option 2, et cetera, the recommendation of our committee actually is that you do all of them. And so Christy and Forrest came this morning specifically in case the board had any questions about any of the details of these proposals. So I'll be happy to defer to them if you start asking me things I don't know. So let me just plow through these quick, and then I'll see if the board has any questions. So option 1 here, Arbor Day tree planting. Now, these are cost estimates that Forrest and Christy prepared, and they're actually hoping that when it comes time to go out for bids, that the bids actually come in lower than these estimates. So we may be able to do even more than we're proposing here, but these are the best estimates that they were able to come up with at this time. So option 1, Arbor Day tree planting at an estimated cost of $14,574. And then each one of these options has a more detailed itemized list, which I won't rattle off, but it's in your packet. Option 2, river corridor amenities at an estimated cost of $11,215. Option 3, river corridor pollinator plantings at 4 existing sites with an estimated cost of $17,600. Option 4, Blue Stem Bridge Trail lighting at an estimated cost of $25,600. And option 5, crosswalk painting around Moorhead area public schools at an estimated cost of $80,100. Now, if you've been doing the math, either with a calculator or in your head, you may realize that the total dollar amount of everything that I just recited comes to over $120,000. The city of Moorhead has identified additional funding to cover that difference. So financially, at least, we are good to go on everything that I just mentioned.
Patrick, can I ask I don't want to jump ahead in the presentation, but I do want to ask a question. If we have motions to approve the recommendations, is that saddling another entity in paying for things, or have those approvals already gone through?
So, and I invite Rory or Christy or Forrest to chime in here if they know more than I do, but my understanding is there's been a preliminary offer
Okay.
from another jurisdiction to chip in that difference. I don't interpret a motion on your part as somehow binding or committing that jurisdiction. I would say that if you make a motion, it would be with the understanding or with the assumption that that other jurisdiction follows through on their offer. If they don't, obviously, we'll have to adjust the dollar amounts accordingly.
Thank you. Commissioner Campbell?
What was the total amount of that award?
So the check that we received was $129,540. We are allowed to use a portion of that funding to cover our own administrative costs in conducting this entire process, and we have been doing that. The last I checked with finance, we were at $126,000 plus or minus. Now, that was a few weeks ago, and so for purposes of the committee's recommendation, we decided to use the figure of $120,000. That's the assumption we have. If, when all's said and done, we end up with a little more or a little less, we will adjust all these numbers accordingly.
Yeah, so when I add up the 5 different options here, including of course, the crosswalk one you show as 80,100, but the amount that you use these dollars towards is 51,000, right?
Yes.
That does come up to exactly 120,000. And I used a calculator. I didn't trust my own addition.
Sure. Okay.
So I did use a calculator.
Very good.
Did you, I know one of the last times we had some conversations here, I had requested maybe to reach out to River Keepers. Have they been involved with this?
I think, Rory, somebody did contact them, right? Yep.
I had spoken with Christine the morning after our meeting, and she had ironically already had a meeting with one of the staff from Moorhead who was working with Forrest and Christie to put in her input, so that would be taken into consideration.
So some of these things where it talks about corridor amenities, she's had some input in that.
She did.
Very good.
Going through this, I appreciate the input. I know that we had exhaustive meetings with citizens, open houses, rather, opportunities for people to provide input. I did have a request from someone that was frustrated that those breakdowns of the comments weren't included in the packet today. Just a sidebar comment that might be something that folks from the community are looking for. I do have a couple items of feedback, if it's okay. Looking at the woodlawn tree planting, I think it's an excellent opportunity, particularly working with 4th grade students. I just am curious, when we're looking at bare root potted trees, are we looking at large trees? The number seems very high to me based on what the SWCD per tree. I mean, if I look at, for instance, their tree order form, you can get a 2-gallon potted spruce for $23. And I mean, if you're looking at large apple trees, whatever, but particularly bare root trees are like $12 a piece. So the cost seems really, really high for the request.
I invite Christie or Forrest to comment on that if they want to. I think they deliberately gave us conservative estimates.
I don't think this is conservative.
It's the other way.
I think it's the other way around. I think, for instance, if you're buying those, that's $125 a tree versus what it looks like $24 a tree.
Commissioners, thank you for having us. The number came from our city forester, who is unfortunately not here today. But they usually, especially along the river corridor where we have wildlife, they usually also include things like putting something around them, or, it might include other costs as opposed to just the tree, but I just can't confirm that because the numbers all came from city forestry.
Okay. And again, I'm not trying to be overly questioning if it's, for instance, a larger, a 4 or 5 year tree, maybe that's what you're talking about, but having the additional T-posts, the water bags, and the straps that are included later on, and I think you could almost plant 5 times the trees for the estimates, just to be honest. Paul was on the SWC
Yeah.
for 40
and
years.
I mean, that'd be the place we'd back up to, to know some other competitive prices, but, so the Soil and Water Conservation in town sells probably many of these same trees, but.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I know that we've had lengthy discussions about the different plans through, and I think one of the challenges, as Patrick mentioned, was the timeline and the time frame of this. And so what the committee asked Christie and Forrest to do on a fairly quick process was to get some of this information in order to meet that June deadline. And so I think that as they go through this process, there can be some additional looking into that, as was talked about in other areas, that they just would adjust to cover what was in this project.
And that's, what I'm saying is if we were to recommend approval of the 14,574, I wouldn't want it to be limiting to only the 100 trees. I feel like that you could potentially get a substantial more amount of trees. And then my comments on this, I really appreciate the safe routes to school component of this. It makes sense. It is an item that we are grappling with constantly on what makes the most sense and how do we make these routes safer for kiddos. I do see that we've not included the component on the Reinertsen district that's part of the long-range component that Moorhead Engineering's working with. So utilizing the funds to address other areas, understanding that engineering will probably take that other corner. It makes sense. Other questions from the board? Commissioner Kavanaugh?
Yeah, can we talk a little bit about the lighting on the pedestrian bridge, what that entails? Also, is there a certain timeline that you have at this point for the bridge? Is the funding there already?
Yes, they're currently working on design. I believe they anticipate having full funding and starting construction in 2027.
Okay.
So everything right now is in the works for the bridge.
So with this, I'm understanding as long as we have a purchase order in by June, this allows the use of that money even if it's 2 years out?
So our goal is to have everything actually purchased and done by June 1st or 3rd or whatever that magic date is.
Oh.
So we're hoping to get everything purchased and to the site and completed by that date.
Oh, okay. I
We did have a
misunderstood
meeting
what
with the
was wrote here.
MPCA, and they were not clear on whether it could be a PO or everything has to be complete. So we're all going under the assumption that we want to have everything complete and in hand.
Okay. And this is areas before the bridge?
Correct, yes.
This before.
Leading up to, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Commissioner Ebinger?
Just again on that's the berms coming out of the neighborhood and then around the,
For the bridge?
yes.
It's actually, so I don't know what page this is in your packet, I apologize, but if you see the aerial photo, you can kind of see on the top of it, it has a half circle. That's the amphitheater.
Okay.
So the trail leading up to the bridge is actually all on the Trollwood Blue Stem site going to the bridge.
Okay.
Commissioner Campbell?
Madam Chair, first I want to say I did a lot of work with Christie when, with the Oakport Joint Powers. She did a lot of good work on behalf of that group, and I just want to say hello from, I don't see you very often anymore. But anyway, I do want to go back to the tree planting, and I do hope that we can maybe even reach out to SWCD if it hasn't been done, because they do have a good tree planting program. And, you know, there just might, as Commissioner Mongeau said, you might be able to get more bang for your buck, you know, if you can maybe reach out to them and see what options are there. So I certainly think it's a good idea. And again, Patrick, maybe can you, for the public who watches this, you know, I've seen a lot of comments or people wondering, why can't it be done for this? Why can't it be done for that? And there are some guidelines that have to be used towards that on the grant, right? Can you
Well-
just explain a little bit of that?
So our two primary constraints are money and time. So we were given a total of $129,540. We're using a working figure right now of $120,000 that we have left to put towards the actual projects. The other thing is, as Christie mentioned, the state statute implies that we need to have this done by June 3rd. Now, the question is, what does done mean? And we actually had a conversation with an official from the MPCA about that. And the MPCA itself regards the statute as ambiguous. So as Christie said, we're trying to err on the side of caution and get as done can be by June 3rd, 2026. Now, apart from that, the statute is pretty much wide open in terms of what we can use it for. I mean, our assumptions have been, number one, that we want to use it specifically to benefit Moorhead because the infractions occurred in Moorhead.
That's where I wanted you to go.
Okay, all right. And number two, that obviously we're going to use the money for reasonable public purposes. You know, we want to be responsible stewards of the money. Apart from that, there don't seem to be any specific rules about what we use the money for.
Thank you.
Steve?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Campbell, Patrick, part of that goes back to the work that you did in the community, though. So this packet is in a response to the priority levels from the public, and so I think that there's been some comments that were made by the commission of frustration by maybe some potential citizens. But in addition to the 3 open houses that have been held by this group, there is also the opportunity online for citizens to also go on if they weren't able to make any of those open houses to provide their feedback. And so this packet that's before you is specifically in response to the feedback the citizens have provided.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner Bear.
So occurring maintenance costs with all these, I see for the option 3, the pollinator, you have figured in some burning money on those to keep down the weeds, I assume. But ongoing maintenance costs of filling the water bags on the trees or the burning on that, or even just changing lights on that, does that fall onto the other entity if they decide to join this? Or where does that money come from?
That would all be from the city of Moorhead.
Moorhead? So we'll put the money into it, but then the city of Moorhead will take on the occurring costs of it.
Correct.
Madam Chair, if there's no further discussion, I would like to move that we proceed with the five options as presented, with the dollar amounts attached to them, with the total not to exceed $120,000.
We have a motion offered from Commissioner Campbell,
Second.
second from Commissioner Ebinger. Any further discussion?
Just one question.
Bear?
With like option 1 with the tree planting to option 5 for 80,000, now if they decide still to just put in 100 trees into that spot, can that extra money be brought over to option 5 to help with or does that option 1 need to spend 114,000 on your question?
Well, I think in the one, you're gonna have to order trees in the next month, particularly the SWCD's tree order timeline closes in a month. You'll know if you're able to utilize more or less. I think if you're moving money from different buckets, that would need to come back to this board. But if you're utilizing that same amount in the trees, but getting more trees, I don't necessarily think that needs to come back.
I just wanted to clarify.
That typically fits within the parameter.
I think that'd be appropriate if that's what the motion is.
Yes.
So
Madam Chair, maybe I can
Rory had a question first.
Okay.
technically, there's that 129,000 minus administrative expenses. So we'll need to be able to spend all of that. And if it's just 120 and we have 3,000 left, it'll sit on the table. So is there a way that the motion could include spending 129,000, all of the grant, and 129,000 minus administrative costs towards these projects. So it could be a couple of $1,000s in there
Either way.
either way. So we didn't have to come back to you.
So you're saying that your administrative costs might not reach 9,000?
I think it's unlikely that they will. We were cautious to make sure that,
Okay, so,
The advertisement said 120,000 in the memo.
That is true.
yeah.
Yeah. I think that maybe from the committee standpoint, once all the work is done for sure from the vetting of the purchases, we could be back before the board pretty quickly.
I'd be happy to facilitate whatever is quickest there to make sure it's right. I don't want to change the number, given that was what was.
Yeah, and I get it. My motion basically was each option has been presented a dollar amount. And my motion was intended that each of those options have that, up to that full amount to use. If something exceeds that, or if there's something left over, that can then come back, just like you're gonna still have to come back with that difference between the 120 and the 129. But at this point, I think my motion is to allow those dollar amounts for each option to be spent.
Commissioner Kavanaugh, did you have a question?
Yeah. So I'm not saying I totally disagree with the oversight. Is the timeliness of doing that going to be able to happen? I mean, and I'm just, we're taking away all latitude, the way I feel, a little bit. But can the time, how do I say this? At a certain point, prior to June 1st, May 30th, or 1st of May thereabouts, would we have bills all in place to know what these accounts are actually going to end up with?
Or at least bids?
Well, okay.
Well,
Some of them might be.
No, I know.
Commissioner Kavanaugh, though, we did approve 100% of what the proposals were, so I don't know if we took the latitude out. I think what we're saying is we aren't comfortable moving money from different pots without coming back based on what the presentation was
Yeah,
today.
no, and I understood that, but how, they may or may not, well, I'll be in favor of the motion. I'm just asking, I hope if they see something, we're addressing that early enough that it doesn't take away from completing the project that may have something that we're taking from that needs still something at the very end. That's all. That make any sense? All right.
Steve, if an issue arises in regards to funding, making sure you have board action, can you communicate and make sure it's on the agenda as soon as possible? We don't have to have the entire group to present on it, to make it easier for people's schedule.
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
Any discussion on the motion? Final call, any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. Thank you for your work on this.
Madam Chair, if I could just extend a thank you to Patrick. He took something that's only been done one other time in the state and brought the group together, the community involvement, the figure out exactly what we can utilize the funds for. He did a great job in bringing this to the commission today, so thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I want to thank the whole committee and various Morehead City staff and Clay County staff who have helped make this possible.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christie.
Item 7 today, Steve?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before you, we had a brief conversation on this last week. As you guys are all certainly aware, this past December, Commissioner Mongeau was elected to serve as the second vice president at AMC. With that will become some additional responsibilities as far as the leadership. And one of those responsibilities is serve as a member of the AMC Futures Task Force. Yeah, and again, so as part of this task force, they meet 3 times a year, generally at St. Paul at the AMC headquarters. The per diem and the hotel is covered, or excuse me, the mileage and the per diem is covered by AMC, and we would just be looking today to request per diem as far as this portfolio addition. That yield for any questions.
Thank you, Steve. And just a caveat, per diem is, for instance, those meetings that happen during conferences, per diem has already been utilized with policy committees. So they meet 3 times a year, and it would probably be 2 per diems a year.
Steve, are you still involved with that?
This last week, we took action. They generally don't have 2 people from the same county, so I stepped down.
They did, however, make an exception to allow Steve to serve in that capacity, but Steve was elevated to another position and wanted to utilize his time elsewhere. Commissioner Ebinger?
And Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the addition of the AMC Futures Task Force to Commissioner Mongeau's portfolio with per diem.
And congratulations to both of you, and I second.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Krabanoff, seconds. Further discussion? Further discussion? Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. Thanks, Steve. Item 8 today is a request approval to amend the Clay County Commission rehiring of county personnel process. If you recall, last week, I highlighted the conversation that Commissioner Campbell and I had at the PIC committee, wanting to make sure we're conscious of staff or supervisors' time. This is why this is on the board for today. Steve?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, you kind of hit the nail on the head there. We are looking to amend our process this past fall based on a challenging budget cycle that we had. This board requested that all rehires go through the PIC process and then through board. Based on a discussion that we had in PIC a couple weeks ago, the amendment would look that we would have the rehire request come through PIC, and if the committee approves that it would be placed on consent agenda. Each commissioner, if there's any questions that you had, I know that it's important for each of you guys to understand the challenges in hiring from each of the departments, and so if anyone had any specific request about that, specific questions about the request, you would have the ability to pull that off the agenda, and then the chair would put that as the last item before committee assignments that would allow staff to come over and respond to that. So all new positions would still need to come through both PIC and the commission for approval. That wouldn't change. With that, I'd yield for any questions.
Thank you, Steve. I had the opportunity to talk on this. Did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I think this is a good way to maybe reduce some of the time for the supervisors having to come here and explain the issues. Once, I think, in most instances, if PIC has gone through it, it's, and again, in every instance, a board member has the ability to take it off of consent if they want to, so I think this is a good option. I do want to just bring up something that maybe to monitor. Of course, we have this early retirement incentive that's going on in there, and I really do think that we need to continue to monitor how that savings works out. And sometimes not all of it is immediately known. We happen to know, for example, when somebody's going to go from, like we saw today in one, there was a savings after payouts of $14,000 or whatever. But is that really the true savings? Because we don't know about the health insurance component, and you really won't know that until the rehire. But we do know is that there's a potential for an additional about $5,000 a year savings there. But I think, when we have these things, I think, I supported doing it, but at the same point in time, we need to show that it's effective. And so being able to report on that is good. And that can be done through PIC, just to the best of our ability, showing what that savings is. But ultimately, after that June 30th timeframe, we're gonna have an idea what kind of savings we had using that. And we don't need names, of course, but
Sure.
that's just something that I think we need to continue to monitor.
Questions from the board? Board wishes?
I'll make a motion to approve the what was presented.
A motion offered from Commissioner Krabanoff to approve the
Second.
request is presented. A second from Commissioner Ebinger. Are there any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried.
Thank you, Board.
Committee reports. Commissioner Ebinger?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last week, on Wednesday, the 21st, I attended the Cass Clay Interagency Council on Homelessness. Had a review of governance, at which time we did have an election of vice chairs and other officers. Had a presentation on root causes of homelessness and a continuum of, I'm sorry, I've got the wrong minutes here. We had the election of officers. We then had a discussion on governance, and we approved some of the structures that are put together. Then we approved the timeline that we're going to have for the next 2 years in reaching some of the goals of the council. And it was generally getting caught up on some of the planning that's been done over the last 3 months, getting a full approval from the council. On Thursday, the 22nd, I attended the Criminal Justice Advisory Board. We had a presentation from Kate Frynham of Minnesota DOC on the Minnesota Rehabilitation and Reinvestment Act and the process that's being used in release of those incarcerated in DOC back into the community, and some of the criteria necessary for them to get an earlier release through accomplishing a number of different programs within the DOC. And once they're released, they can have a administrative probation, which is a lot less cumbersome for them and for the parole officer if folks meet certain criteria and maintain their goals that are set up for them. It's an interesting presentation. I think it shows a lot of promise for not only saving money, but also being more effective in helping people reach the goals that they've got. Later that day, attended the Board of Authority for the diversion. Had regular standard business that we cover on some of the approvals of some of the contracting that's been done. Had an executive director report. The employees of the diversion will receive a 3% COLA. General counsel update and presentation from Corps of Engineers. There's not a lot of work going on right now because of the weather, but we are gradually moving towards basically operations and maintenance as the projects are completed. And that completes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Ebinger. Commissioner Krabanoff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Back on the 20th, that Tuesday, I had the Adult Mental Health LIC meeting. We had, I think it was right at 12 provider groups along with county staff. Wonderful meeting again of sharing of needs and resources and learning from each other. Probably the one thing that was, there are many questions going on the funding and with all the kind of the looking at the difficulties happening down in St. Paul, and on the services from the Department of Human Services, some of the money is suspended, and one of the areas that it's kind of affecting is transportation in town. And so it was just the awareness of that and how to try to correct that. What's happening is where services are being used, they normally can get some reimbursement for transportation for the people to get to their appointments. And we no longer, and this may change shortly, don't have a provider anymore in town to be taking them around that takes these monies from with Medicare. So anyway, that was kind of the pressuring one and a good discussion by all. Later that afternoon, I had the Historical and Cultural Society Finance Committee, again reviewing where we were from last year and now looking into next year. Things are all in order. And the other piece we had a extended conversation was about is the monies that we have for liquidity and yet future use, how to place those monies, and trying to find places that have best return on investment while they may sit in savings or CDs or otherwise. Thursday, I had my CAP-LP Finance and Board of Directors meeting. Main things there was we had a spotlight by our communications and marketing director. Giving Hearts Day is coming up February 12th. CAP-LP, along with, and now we brought in Reach out of Holly. We're trying to elevate and for people to give toward CAP-LP, and with those funds, they have a thrift store out there that needs new roof, and we're trying to raise $50,000 toward that roof. I want to give you a little update too on the rural bus routes. They are getting a group of people for getting those rides out. I don't have a count yet, but as soon as I have on continual basis, I'll try to tell the board where they're at on rides best I can. I do know the buses being moved out in that area and utilizing the volunteer people. And it was mentioned by Commissioner Campbell, if stipends are appropriate, we'll do that. So anyway, they're making those adjustments and moving forward. We also had a review on what's called the CAP-LP theory of change. And in that change, it's a whole review of mission, vision, and our core values. We went through that. It's always got to keep track, and so we know what our guiding principles are moving forward. And those are the main two things. And then we proved in March, as I did last year, I will be going with CAP-LP as chairman of the board out to DC and be lobbying for what are called community-based grants that we use, and they were utilized in this case for helping along with rural bus rides. So that'll be the week in the middle of February. And let's see here. Yesterday, Food Commission. Yeah, that group I was concerned about that last report. This month, a lot of people have come together. I think the Food Commission is moving in a good place right now. It would be we didn't have anything at the meeting that was very specific in substance. It's about the gathering of information so that we can have good commission meetings, and our next one will be March 11th, so that agenda is being put together now. And that's my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Krabanoff. Commissioner Campbell?
All right, thank you.
Ayes and tans.
I got to go back a little ways. First off, I want to mention that I was gone last week, and I hope you all will thank me for bringing back the warm weather. But on the 13th of January, going back, we had the PIC meeting, Personal Issues Committee meeting, in which I know Commissioner Mongeau would have reported on. We had a lot of the issues that you either acted on last week or we acted on this morning, including, the discussion before on the hiring bonuses for deputies, the cadet program, the electronic health record system. Troy, did he come back last week on that? Okay. And then also the administrative support specialist position with Jessica and Troy, and then the full-time public nurse that we acted on today. Yesterday, I attended virtually the West Central Regional Water Supply meeting. I attended that virtually because I couldn't get out of my driveway because of snow. But Ezra was there, and so I don't actually have my printed out agenda to report on, so I'm going to leave it up to Ezra to report on that, the details of that meeting. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Campbell. Commissioner Bear?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last Tuesday night, I went to the Public Waters Inventory meeting for the preliminary map with the DNR. We had, there was a good turnout there. There was probably about 25 to 30 people in the room. We had staff there as well. We had Matt Jacobson there from Planning and Zoning, and then the SWCD was also there. Their staff was there, so there's a lot of good questions asked. So, yeah, a lot of good questions were asked, and if you want to make a comment on that, you'd have to go online to do so. And this would be the first county they're doing across the state, and I thought it was a very good meeting. Lasted about an hour and a half and very informational. And then the next day, Wednesday, I had a meeting with the Nature Conservancy and U.S. Fish and Wildlife. They are looking at coming up with about 1,900 acres for it would be called the Nixon Acquisition in Clay County, about 1,900 acres that they're looking at putting into Nature Conservancy property, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and the DNR. I asked them to come to one of our board meetings to give us all an update on it, and I'm going to forward that information on to Steve so we can get them on the agenda probably sometime in March or April. Then on January 22nd, I had a meeting with West Central Regional Water District with Moorhead Public Service, and we gave them an update on the project, on where we're at in the court system, and just talk about water and see how interested they are in providing water and what to go through with all those next steps with them. Then later that day, I had a meeting at the Clay County Heartland Trail where we discussed the right-of-way along the proposed trail alignment, and we also talked more about the trail alignment through Muscatine, Muscadee. So we talked about the trail alignment through there, if it's possible to go through there with one landowner right up along the road, and that road, the right-of-way is probably about the size of the road. So we're looking at other possible alignments through that area. We also discussed state trail and regional trail again. And they do plan on coming here and bringing that discussion to the whole board on which way we should lean. I think it should be, each section should be maybe a little different. It depends where it's at, if it's in the city or if it's out in the country. So when they come and give us a presentation, we can discuss that. Then I left that meeting and went to the Criminal Justice Advisory Board, which Dave already gave a update on that. I had to leave early there because I had a truckload of ISO wings come in later that day, so I had to get out of there. Then yesterday, January 29th, I had the regular board meeting with the West Central Regional Water District. where we discussed the second and final court hearing, hopefully, and it's been scheduled for April 17th at 1:30 PM. And the reason it got pushed back so late is because we needed to find a spot for 2 courtrooms to be open so we can house the people we believe we're gonna house. We're gonna send out about 19,500 notices to the whole district. We also talked about sending out a mailer, which we will be doing, ahead of those notices to cities and organizations that we've had contact with, so in case they get reached out to, they can have some answers. We're giving them a frequent asked question handout with that as well.
Yes, sir, can I? Yeah. So in regards to that, notice that hearing, and I think the courts had suggested that they work with Clay County auditor staff in sending that out.
Yep.
So we had dollars set aside
Yes.
for that mailing. So I think just maybe for Steve, I think it's gonna be important that if it ends up going through Lori, and how that all works out, that we need to
Document that.
document that and the time involved so that those dollars, not only for the postage or whatever, but for the time involved, would come out of those funds that have been reserved for that.
Yep. Yep. Then we also had a budget update. Well, first I'll go back to funding. We had an update on the FY 2024 earmark that is roughly $3.5 million. And that ball has finally started to move again on getting that money. Still no set date on when we'll receive that money for the West Central Regional Water District. But the ball is at least rolling again to receive that money. With the shutdown and everything has delayed that, and hopefully we don't go through another one here on Friday. And then, yeah, budget update, we are sitting on roughly enough money to cover the cost of that notices that we have to send out, and the A2S is sitting on a few bills there that we have not paid them, but they are holding those, waiting for that earmarked money to come in. That is all the reports that I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Bear. Last week, with the cancellation of the nuts and bolts in the boardroom, I did have an opportunity to still attend the Board of Directors orientation training for AMC, a meeting Wednesday with our Clay County Legislative Work Group, still dialing in on the wording of the bills, just needing amendments, rather, they are existing, just amendments. And then attended Thursday, Friday, AMC Executive Committee meetings in St. Paul. Lots to discuss moving forward, all that we're dealing with. And then I had an opportunity to meet with the governor on Friday. We did bring up our first or 2 priorities as an organization, the technology upgrades and the property tax issue in regards to just non-sustainable continued rises in what property tax levies are feeling, rather. And last week also had the opportunity to attend the federal update on funding. Quinn and I both attended that meeting. Really great opportunity for Quinn to forward to all of you the sheet on where all the implications for funding revenues and streams and requirements are. So if you have an opportunity to look through that, it's really helpful. Yesterday, I attended the Lakeland Mental Health Center Board of Directors meeting. All of the commissioners should have received invitations to the annual board meeting next month. I really encourage you all to go. It's really helpful to see all of the program areas that Lakeland provides in Clay County. Certainly they do the work at our correctional facility, but really contract for a lot of great services in the community. And then general business for the board yesterday as well. We are still looking at what Medicaid reimbursables will mean. That that could really affect the budget over there. So keeping a really close look on what that all means. That concludes my reports. Steve.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last Tuesday, participated in the MCMA Regional Administrator Group, both city and county administrators virtually. A lot of the focus was on budgets and some of the challenges that we're seeing in the state of Minnesota currently. That afternoon, I met with Quinn. As he has reported, from an out-of-home placement standpoint, we're seeing fewer youth that are in need of placement, but those that are have significant needs. And so he's kind of given us as he gave us our updates this last year, that it looked like it was probably going to be expenses over revenues in '25, which he's still trying to get that number together. But because of the proposed deficit from that area, we are looking to bring the out-of-home placement committee back together, probably not till mid-February when Quinn has a better idea of what that number looks like. On the 21st, participated in the legislative planning discussion that's been discussed. Also had a meeting again with Quinn that afternoon. The great news continues to come. We ended up being notified by the state that our one remaining transportation company that's been approved by the state for non-emergency managed care under UCare was no longer certified by UCare, and so the challenge that we have from the county standpoint is this is one of those programs that we act as the arm of the state, so we don't provide funding for that. The state provides funding for that, and so we're in the process of trying to, I guess, help those who are in need of those services until UCare comes out with a new approved transportation company, which again is fairly limited in our area. On the 22nd, I met with Lori Johnson, Sheriff Empting and Chief Deputy, in regards to notification that we have G-Tech body cameras in both the juvenile center, the correctional facility, and with our deputies. The G-Techs, the camera that we currently have is going to be phasing out. And so we're exploring the best ways to bring that forward. And so we'll probably be having some conversations with Commissioner Campbell and Commissioner Ebinger in coming days or coming weeks as we find more information out. We had a pre-MCJPA meeting, caught the tail end of that meeting, and then spoke with Eric Dodds. We have upcoming meeting. There'll be some relocation reimbursements, some flowage easements, deed restrictions, and some contracting actions that will be coming before the full board on the 29th. Met with Brian Melton on the 22nd to discuss a coverage issue that we've come up with MCIT in regards to an incident with our withdrawal management, so there'll be more to come on that. Had my weekly check-in with Public Health Director Jessica Mickelson as she transitions into her role. On the 23rd, also met with Aaron and Darren on a series of county issues that we're looking at. And also that afternoon, met with Matt Jacobson and Erica with the Minnesota DNR on the floodplain check-in. Really just kind of an education for most counties. They do it every 5 years. Fortunately, we have two of the best there, which was brought up several times during the training. That really just is meant to kind of inform counties of the different services. Having said that, the DNR is in the process right now of reviewing our floodplain program, which I'll be providing feedback in the coming weeks. Late that afternoon, participated in the annual disclosure training run by the Minnesota Department of Revenue. It's a responsibility that administrators attend for counties that have sales tax. So I completed that, and then yesterday participated in the West Central Regional Water Board meeting, which has been covered. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. One meeting I neglected to report on, both Commissioner Bear and I attended the preliminary mapping upgrade for the public waters inventory that the DNR held at the Yumkamp Center. Really great interaction from county residents on that. One item that both Commissioner Bear and I are going to bring forward to AMC and DNR, the frustration is there's not an ability to provide verbal conversation input as a comment. It only can come from an online piece. So if you have a meeting with DNR, you provide them your comment, that can't be received as an official comment. if we're trying to get the most interaction in that, and as they move to make that a better process going forward, I really do, and I think Commissioner Bear agrees, feel like that would be helpful to include that opportunity. Any other business before the board? There are several upcoming meetings, if you see, and then our next meeting will be next Tuesday. We are adjourned.